Welcome to this month's block of the month called Star of the Show. This is month 11, so we've only got 1 month left to go. When this one came in the mail, I took one look at it and I thought, wow, they are trying to kill us. This one is hard. There's over 50 pieces in this one, so it is quite a challenge. So you definitely have to be careful as you go along. And there are a lot of tips and tricks I'll share with you this month. Some of the basic ones that we've had from before is I was able to use my previous month's stash. Didn't even have to touch this month's fabric for this one. So do remember you can go back and use some of your previous month's fabric if you would like. And also don't forget that scant 1/4 inch. That's definitely going to be critical to getting your block to come out to be 12.5 inches. It definitely will not work if you don't do that. Before you get started on sewing though, there were 2 things to know about cutting this month. One of them is that the little green pieces that were really small, you had 4 of those. When you're placing those to sew, you kind of can cut them however you want and you'll probably end up with something. When you go to place them and you'll have to fold them over, just sort of take note of what's on the other side of that so that you'll know what you want to appear, because if you don't take care of the placement, you'll probably end up with just plain green triangles and there probably won't be anything on them. Or it'll be just, a little smidge in the seam allowance of something that you really won't be able to tell what it is. And the second thing is that this stripe fabric is technically a directional fabric. And in the finished product, they have all their stripes kind of going this way, like this. They're all moving that way. So if you want those to happen, then it tells you when you're making these pieces right here, the big stripe pieces, to make 4 of those. Actually, you need to make 2 and 2 of those. 2 going in the direction it shows, and then you'll need to turn your fabric to cut the other 2 if you want your fabric to all face your stripes to be going in the same direction. I did not do mine that way. I liked this sort of diamond pattern in the middle, and then it had 2 stripes going this way, 2 going this way, 2 going this way, and 2 going this way. I was happy with it, and that's what I wanted to do. It's up to you how you want yours to go, but just be aware that as you're cutting them, that you can't do it exactly how the directions said, cut 4 like this. If you want it to work out how it did in the picture with all your stripes going in one direction, you'll have to actually do 2 of them the opposite direction. And that's all for the pre-information, so I'll let you know what tips and tricks you need to know this month. So you can see here in the half square triangle units that I was sewing, you're supposed to mark it down the center, mark the 1/4 inch line, and in theory you would sew on that 1/4 inch line. But because we want the blocks to be just a teeny bit bigger so that we can square them off to get perfect 2.5 inch blocks, we want them to be a smidge bigger. So in order to get them a smidge bigger, we want to sew towards this line in the middle, and sew just off that line to make it a little bit bigger. And then for this one, you want to sew for that towards that middle line to be a little bigger. And so that's just how you do it to get the blocks a little bigger. And then when I cut them apart and open them up, they'll be a smidge bigger than 2.5 inches. And then I'll just square them up and cut them to be the perfect 2.5 inches. So I have my half square triangle unit that's supposed to be 2.5 inches, and I made it just a little big. You can see how on some of the edges, some spots are a little wider and skinnier than other parts. But when I take my 2.5 inch ruler and I'll cut it out, and then it'll be exactly 2.5 inches. So I know it'll fit perfectly. Once I've cut those half square triangle units down to be 2.5 inches, I like to just throw them on the ironing board and give them a quick press. I just feel like that helps the seams to be a little more secure since you've trimmed them off. So when you get to the last step before you sew everything together, I definitely recommend laying your pieces out and just taking a look at them. The main thing that you have to worry about when you're assembling these is what I call the double green tails. So there's 4 of those right here where these 2 green tails meet. Right here, and right here. And you should just have a 1/4 inch in all of those spaces to know that they'll assemble correctly. So that one does, this one does, this one does, but when I get to this one, it definitely doesn't. This one is a lot bigger than the other ones. If I take my little ruler, that little edge is a 1/4 inch, and if I hold it up there, you can see that There's a little bit of space at it that it kind of leaves this white kind of blended off and straight and too big instead of being right there where it's supposed to be. So I definitely need to fix this block before I assemble all of these together. And to look at that and figure out what I need to do, when I turn it over, I can see that this one just wasn't up high enough. So if I tear this seam out and resew that and just make sure that they're even, then that should correct that. And that's pretty much an easy fix. So I will fix it. However, if something different had been wrong with it, like say this green triangle had just been sewn on in the wrong spot or something, then it probably would have been easier just to take this off and just remake this piece than to try to get it correct. So it's a good time to just sort of mention, sometimes it's easier to fix something, sometimes it's easier just to say forget it and start over again. But in my case, it is easier to fix something, so I will fix that, get it correct, and then sew those pieces together. So this month's block, I was happy with how it turned out. Everything did turn out okay. It definitely is critical though for this month to check every step as you go. So every time you're following a step in the directions and there's a measurement, you need to stop and check that measurement. And if it's not right, you need to fix it, because if you don't fix it in the first step, by the time you get to these later steps, your seams will not meet properly and you won't have all these nice little triangles and points where you're supposed to. You'll have flat edges where you're supposed to have points. So this is definitely a critical block where accuracy and precision is very important as you go along, because there are many pieces in this one with so many pieces that need to align. So definitely fix things as you go, and don't think that you're going to wait till later like you can with some quilt patterns and they can be a little off and you can make it work. This is not one of those. If it's a little off, it will not work. So be sure to fix it as you go. And I hope you enjoyed this month, and I'm looking forward to next month. Can't believe it's already almost our last month. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, and thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time. Thank you.